Let's talk about the South Carolina Disclosure of Real Estate Brokerage Relationships form. So, this document is required by South Carolina law and it helps you understand the types of relationship you'll have with me as your real estate agent. It's all about clarity, transparency, ensuring we're on the same page about how I represent you during the sale of your home or even purchasing of a home. So, the purpose of this form is to outline the types of services that a real estate license like myself can provide to you. It's important to know the difference between being a client and being a customer because it affects the type and level of service that you will receive. So, by signing this form, you're confirming that we've reviewed these options together and that you understand what to expect in our relationship. So let's break down what a client versus a customer relationship is. So when you are a customer of the brokerage firm, I can assist you with general tasks like presenting offers and providing basic information, but I wouldn't be representing your interests exclusively. Think of this as more of a neutral relationship. When you have a client relationship, which when you become a client of the firm, you'll receive a much higher level of service and representation. This means that I am your advocate. I'm obligated to act in your best interest. I'll handle negotiations, provide confidential advice. So really that's the key piece is I can provide you with a little bit more of advice on things. And of course, working hard to help you achieve your goals. For sellers, it's most always going to be client based services because that allows me to fulfill your needs exclusively and protect your interests. The other duties that you'll receive as a client, because I'm legally bound to you, and I do have to provide 6 duties with that. It's obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable skill and care. So, obedience is I will follow your lawful instructions throughout the transaction because what you tell me to do is what I will do. Loyalty, so your interests always come first, even ahead of my own. Disclosure, so I'm going to share any and all information, motivations for selling, your personal information, your motivations for selling, any financial details that you share with me will always remain private. Accounting, so I'll safeguard and account for any money or property entrusted to me during this process. Reasonable skill and care, I'll use my expertise to guide you every step of the way. And for whether that, if you're selling, that's pricing and marketing and negotiations all the way to closing. Then the other things we want to talk about is the different forms of agency. So that's single agency, dual agency, and disclosed dual agency, and then designated agency. So thinking of single agency, this is the simplest arrangement where I represent you as a seller and the buyer has their own agent or vice versa. Dual agency, in some cases, I might represent both the seller and the buyer in the same transaction. That's known as dual agency. And that only happens with both parties' written consent. So both a seller and a buyer have to agree in writing that they agree to that. And of course, if this occurs, my ability to advocate for one party over the other becomes limited. But I'm still working to facilitate this transaction fairly. I don't like doing dual agency, but sometimes it does happen. And again, it is completely up to you how you want me to handle that. And so designated agency is where if my brokerage represents both the buyer and a seller. So let's say when my brokerage is both on both sides, but I might not be representing both sides, but my brokerage is. That is what designated agency is. And so it ensures that each side has its own agent, but the brokerage is having to stay neutral. And then there is another option for the state of South Carolina. It is transaction brokerage. So I know it's a little broken up here on the page, but a transaction brokerage is where I assist both parties in a neutral capacity without representing either as a client. And it's rare for someone to choose this option. Just because we just don't see it that often, but you're not getting the same type of representation as client level services. This would be a little bit more along the lines of customer level services. So, and I'm really just facilitating doing ministerial acts and things like that, paperwork and things. So when you sign this, you are signing this document acknowledging that I've explained these options to you and that you understand the level of service that you'll be receiving from me. My goal is to work together under a client relationship, which gives you the strongest possible representation during this real estate transaction. So hopefully that kind of explains it a little bit. Of course, read through this documentation of these disclosure of real estate brokerage relationships. But hopefully this ensures transparency of our professional relationship. And by choosing to be a client, if you choose to be a client, which I hope you do, you'll receive full service representation, advocacy, tailored advice and meeting your goals. So if you have any questions or concerns about this form or the types of relationships described, please don't hesitate to ask me. My top priority is to make you feel comfortable and confident and well-informed. So thank you for trusting me to represent you, and I look forward to helping you in a successful sale.